The military, or are you talking about the National Guard? No, I chose my words very carefully. The National Guard is a branch of the military. Army, Navy, Air Force, which my father served in for 30 years, Marines, Coast Guard, and National Guard, and unfortunately under Donald Trump, also Space Force. These are the branches of our military, and the National Guard serves under the Army or the Air Force. That's why there's the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard. These are legitimate branches of the military. They're highly trained, and they all serve different roles when it comes to protecting the American people and defending the United States Constitution. And these distinctions really matter. One of the reasons that I say that we need to understand the differences between legitimate members of the armed forces, civil law enforcement like Portland Police Bureau, and the Gestapo chuds working for the Department of Homeland Security, aka ICE, is that they all have different levels of training, ethics, or lack thereof, and different skills. They also have different vulnerabilities, different mindsets, and perhaps different loyalties. The American Gestapo, known as ICE, is Donald Trump's personal paramilitary force. They currently operate completely outside of the law, where they apparently feel free to brutalize non-violent, unarmed American citizens, including clergy. They are handcuffing and detaining American citizens without probable cause, without warrants. We have multiple reports that here in Portland, Oregon, ICE is planting evidence on nonviolent protesters. We know that when they're brutalizing American citizens and they are arresting them, will engage in behaviors to try and drum up charges of resisting arrest. I heard testimony from a protester who was saying that the tactic that ICE is currently using, that when they have you on the ground, they will squeeze your wrist. I heard from another person, they'll put their knee right in the back of your calf or the back of your thigh to try to elicit a pain response so that you jerk. And they can be like, see, resisting arrest. This person's resisting arrest. Here's an additional charge. Just be aware, if you're in a situation where ICE is arresting you, they will try to escalate not only the charges against you, but keep in mind that legitimate members of law enforcement should have some measure of training in de-escalation. It varies very much across the United States. ICE has no interest in de-escalation, no training in de-escalation that we are aware of, and we are repeatedly watching them intentionally try to escalate in situations where they are engaging with American citizens. Know that the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump regime are desperate to manufacture a riot. They are desperate to get anything on film, right? This is a PR campaign. This is a propaganda machine. They want anything on film that they can show to their base to say, see, Portlanders, Chicagoans, they're violent. This is a riot. This is a war zone. We are justified in using the military. They are trying to manufacture a crisis, and they are using ICE to do it. What we're seeing over and over again is that the American people are not taking the bait. We understand what ICE's mission is. Their mission is to help Donald Trump escalate his authoritarian agenda, to chill dissent and to take away our rights, to spread fear and intimidation. And in order to be able to push through Stephen Miller and Donald Trump's plans, they have to start a riot. They have to create a situation. Have to try and manufacture a powder keg and then set the fuse, because what was happening in Portland, Oregon, prior to ICE starting their bullshit at the facility on Macadam Avenue, is that according to our Attorney General in court filings, there were a maximum of 30 protesters. Portland police repeatedly said they had it under control. And in fact, from sworn testimony in court from Portland police, we know that ICE has been deemed to be the instigator. This is a situation entirely manufactured by Donald Trump, and we are too smart to buy into it. And we understand what ICE's role, what their agenda is, what kind of tactics they're going to use, their lack of training, their lack of self-control, and the fact that they feel that they're above the law. And unfortunately for them, they are not properly assessing the fact that a post-Trump era is coming sooner rather than later. It's a good time to remind folks that there are efforts in several states to remove qualified immunity from ICE, right? Not to keep quoting Zach De La Rocha, but know your enemy. You need to know their mindset and their agenda when you're engaging. And we have to be a whole hell of a lot more savvy than to paint all law enforcement, all military with a broad brush. ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, they are an entirely different beast than civil law enforcement or legitimate members of the military. If we engage with members of the National Guard, presuming that they have the same outlook, the same training as American Gestapo ICE chuddies who are former Proud Boys, January 6th insurrectionists, oath keepers, we're going to be sabotaging ourselves. This is why I so frequently bring up the Otpor movement in Serbia, because one of their key tactics when they were engaging with the military and with police was trying to get them on the side of the people and to make sure that when the moment came, they would be non-compliant with the illegal, inhumane, cruel orders of Slobodan Milosevic. It was that constantly engaging with members of the military saying, please understand that I'm your neighbor. We're all in this together. We trust you to do the right thing. We trust you to fall back on your humanity, on your ethics, on your training. We trust you to you're going to do the right thing. When we engage with legitimate members of the military, respect, with compassion, understanding that they don't want to be used in this way, they don't want to be deployed in this way. And when we communicate to them, like, we have an expectation that you'll do the right thing, then we create this dynamic where they feel supported by the people and used by the regime. They ally themselves with the people because members of the Oregon National Guard, they're Oregonians. They are our neighbors. They are Americans. We heard from the Brigadier General, members of the Oregon National Guard are American citizens first, and that they swore an oath to the Constitution. So when you're looking at your grassroots pro-democracy group, if you're going out with a group of protesters, this is one of the key reasons that when we engage in nonviolent resistance, we're constantly strategizing, we're gaming out, we're planning through scenarios. We have to be informed. We have to craft plans carefully that prioritize safety and efficacy. We have to game out possible scenarios. And we have to know who's our enemy and who is a potential ally. In a chat with some other Oregonians, and one of the things we keep talking about is how can we engage with members if, right? Because it's right now, it's up in the air. Right now, troops have been blocked from coming into Oregon, but should they get placed here, what is the tactic we're going to use when we engage with them? How is it that we're going to communicate with them? What is your strategy? Not something that is you venting your anger because you're really pissed at the Trump regime and you see somebody in uniform and you think like that person represents the government, represents Donald Trump. Because I promise you, our members of the military, they should represent the American people in the Constitution. I don't want you to look at legitimate members of the military and see the Trump regime. Don't do that. He's using them. He's using them, and believe me, they know it. I want you to look at them and see human beings, see your fellow Americans, see potential allies, and think about how that shapes your communication. Think about how that shapes your strategy when we are engaging. And I also really encourage you to read up on the Otpor movement in Serbia. This is not about us venting our righteous anger, right? This is about us engaging in self-discipline and effective strategizing so that we can stop the fascist regime of Donald Trump. If our choices and our actions are not furthering the cause, we need to stop and reevaluate what we're doing. This is not about indulging our anger and our rage. This is not about satisfying our desire for retribution, right? This is about building a mass, effective, sustained resistance movement. This is about our actions furthering the goal of protecting the most vulnerable, restoring our democracy, and then getting justice for the shit that they're doing now. Keep your eyes on the prize. Think about what you're doing. Think about the differences in nuances in communication and tactics and how they are furthering your goal.